On July 31st of 2023, the CEO and game director Cyprian Claudes announced the official halt of production for the game Kardomance. This NFT card game was once called the next Gods Unchained by some, but is now known as another cautionary tale in the Web3 space. From the team's lack of communication to the mishandling of funds, this project is considered a failure by some and a rug pull by others. Let me explain. First, let's start from the beginning. Before Kardomance, Cyprian Claudes was mainly known for founding the company called Imaginate, basically a French company dedicated to teaching other French companies about marketing and customer acquisition. And in case you're asking how a guy that is mainly known for marketing is going to create a digital trading card game, a trading card game built on a blockchain no less, well, that's a good question. Cyprian first starts with the most important parts of the game, the illustrations. He would employ the help of former illustrators from Magic the Gathering and Warhammer to come up with some art. And here are the results. Not bad if I say so myself. However, around this time, Cyprian will mention giving away spots for the whitelist. That's basically a list of people that would be allowed to buy cards from whatever sale that was coming up. Or rather, this is the sale. It seems to be a sale of chests of different rarities filled with cards and other perks. And right before the year ends, the light paper would drop. Basically, it's a rough outline that describes what the project is and its goals. It includes stuff like the future sales, gameplay mechanics, team, and roadmap. But there are two main things I want to point out. First, let's talk about the team. Do you notice anything wrong with the team? I don't know about you, but normally when I look at a new game being developed, I hope there is at least one game developer on the team, to make the game. Not to mention that this team is actually pretty small. For most people, this is a red flag, but I guess hindsight's 2020. But let's move on to the other thing I was concerned about, the roadmap. For a game with no game devs, it seems pretty ambitious to have a full beta launched by Q4 of 2022. But hey, that's just me. And another thing I want to point out is the Ambassador program. While the open beta is set to be launched in Q4 of 2022, it seems the Ambassador program is starting in Q1. To me, that seems fairly early to be paying content creators to market your project. I personally always give advice to other content creators to stay away from promoting games that aren't playable yet. There is just so much uncertainty in the Web3 space that it's better to be safe than sorry. And here are some of the ambassadors. And you might recognize some people here. And this leads us smoothly to the next section. In February, Kardomance begins commissioning videos made by content creators talking about Kardomance, like Naguba TV, Mr. Bluepoint, Cryptor, Axel4x, and my personal favorite, Les Maxos. If you're playing Gods Unchained in early 2022, you will know Les Maxos well. He was one of the biggest Gods Unchained YouTubers at the time. I mean, numbers wise, he's still several times larger than my main channel. And he had my favorite Gods Unchained video of all time, his attempt at free-to-play board wipe death. However, as you will notice, Kardomance doesn't have any gameplay for these content creators to shill, so most of these videos are just going to be them going over the light paper. And in April, Kardomance would make an even bigger push to recruit more ambassadors. Here is the reward structure and their different tiers for each size. Also, you might notice that the rewards are mostly in tokens and cards, plus the access to the closed beta and whitelist spots for the upcoming sale. However, I personally find that hard to believe that that's all. I mean, thinking about it logically, they won't need to do work right now for the promise of rewards in the distant future. To me, that seems really sketchy. I mean, why would someone risk the integrity of their channel for the promise of potential rewards sometime in the distant future? I mean, that's why I think there has to be more to the rewards than just this. Then in late January, a new version of the light paper would be released. And this time, the team expanded and finally hired a game dev. That's progress. Now all he has to do is make the entire game. You got it, buddy. And you better work fast because you only got like 4 months until Q4 is here. And according to the new roadmap, the launch for the open beta is still on schedule. Plus in 2023, he's going to have to make the second game. So yeah, there's that. This is supposed to be a private token sale, NFT sale, and playtesting. Let's fast forward and see how that went. In July, there's a council. A council of what? Normally, a council is supposed to help bring proposals to the team and represent players' interest. But there's no game yet, so there's nothing to represent. But there is a few mentions of an alpha, but no release date. In August, there's a mention of the token sale coming soon. In September, there's some trailer gameplay of each class in the game. Then in October, yes, we're in quarter 4 now. In October, the sales of chests finally take place, with the Founder's chest being the cheapest at $160 with a supply of $999, followed by the Ogre chest with a price of $370 with a max supply of $99, and the Immortals chest set at a price of $980 with a max supply of 9. Of course, each one of these chests has a corresponding amount of cards and perks tied to them, but I don't think it's really worth it to talk about them right now. So how did the sale go? The Immortals chest, the most expensive chest, sold out in less than a minute. That's almost $9,000 right there. The figures for the other chests sold were never released. However, judging by the team's response, it sounds like they sold well. Okay, so the sales finally launched, but what happened to the token? Wasn't that supposed to be in the last quarter? Well, we had to fast forward to January 2023, the last official mention of a token by the CEO. And it is to say that they're not doing an ICO, but instead they're focusing on targeting the rest of the gaming market. Okay, fair enough. But what about the most important part of this project? The game. And that would come in late January. Now, though there have been mentions of an alpha or playtesting for a long time, it would finally arrive in the form of a demo that was only available for the weekend. However, at this time, chests still couldn't be open, so people playing the demo were most likely using a couple preset decks when playing each other, and this sort of demo on the weekend beta would occur for 6 consecutive weeks. However, that would end on March 4th, when Cyprian announced that there would be no demo for that particular weekend, followed by another announcement of no demo weekend, and then he'll stay silent for another full month before announcing the studio was slowing down production. Here he says they've made a lot of progress, but somehow the game still wasn't playable. And fast forward to the last announcement on July 31st, it's the announcement I showed at the beginning of the video. That shows them halting production due to the financial issues, aka they ran out of money. So that was a basic story and the majority of people involved, but let's take a look back at some of the more controversial parts. Let's first start by revisiting the chest sales. A long list of booster packs and perks were attached to each tier of chest, and while many were sold, the ability to actually open them was never implemented. That was supposed to come later. As for where the money went, I have no idea, but it's probably gone. The right thing to do would be to obviously refund everyone who purchased a chest. Whether that's actually going to happen, I don't know. The sale started almost 10 months ago, and judging by Cyprian's lack of communication when things go wrong, I doubt we'll be hearing from him anytime soon. I find it funny really, when the sales are going on and money's being taken, the team is very talkative, but when they actually have to deliver a product, you can't find anyone. No one knows anything and no one's heard anything from anyone. But speaking of communication, let's talk about the recent lack of it, or rather the reason Cyprian has been making fewer and fewer announcements. Do you remember Armored Frog Games, the company Cyprian founded a while back? Well, in May of 2023, a few months ago, a new legal announcement was published. It reads, "Opening of an early dissolution." And while I'm not that familiar with French bankruptcy proceedings, a quick Google search tells me that it means that it's the end of a company. They're shutting down. So basically, this guy sold a bunch of chests, hosted a couple of demo weekends, filed to shut down the company, and didn't tell anyone, and just ghosted. And the only way I even knew about this was because someone had mentioned the article in the Discord. So yeah, it wasn't easy information to find. And you know what else? You can't even go back to check the message in the Discord. Everything has been moved to the archive when Cyprian made his last announcement. Well, everything was moved except for the general chat. That just disappeared completely. And I don't think Cyprian is going to move it back. Okay, so Kardomance is pretty much dead. And if this guy just disappears again and doesn't give out any refunds, then this guy goes from being untrustworthy and unreliable to being a straight up scammer. Okay, but who's at fault here? Who's to blame for getting tricked by this guy? Who should we hold accountable? Well, in my eyes, there are three options: the team, the ambassadors, and the players. Let's first start with the team. And honestly, with the disappearance of general chat from the Discord, it's a little hard to assign fault. But let's first start with Dragon, the community manager. He was the one posting announcements until the end of 2022. But it looks like something happened and he left the Discord. There was never any announcement of his departure or anything. He just disappeared. Whether he knew about the Kardomance situation or not, well, that's unclear. Next, let's talk about the game designer Digit. According to a now deleted post, he accused Cyprian of ghosting him and the other team members in recent months and still being owed money for their work. Again, I didn't take screenshots in time before the general chat was deleted, but that's not my point. My point is, these guys had every opportunity for months to tell players that something was wrong, but they never said anything. Only one team member coming out after waiting for months is unacceptable. They just stood on the sidelines and watched, all while the players were left in the dark. Then again, maybe they were under contract or an NDA or something like that. Still, I don't like it. Now let's talk about the ambassadors. Whatever happened to them and how much at fault are they? Well, let's first start with their compensation. They were supposed to receive a bunch of tokens for their videos. Yeah, I don't think that ever happened. And they're supposed to get a bunch of cards. And that didn't happen either. So they pretty much made videos and didn't get anything. But what about those videos? Is Kardomance the next Gods Unchained? Quite the bold title if I don't say so myself. In this video, Les Maxos would compare this sale to the Genesis sale for Gods Unchained. And at the time of this video's release, some of the Genesis cards were still worth thousands of dollars. For some context, when these cards were first being released, they only cost around $20 or so. So as you'll notice, that's quite the comparison. Throughout this video, Les Maxos would go over the light paper and say how excited he is for this project. This, of course, was my first introduction into Kardomance, since I was quite a fan of this guy. In early July, I rewatched his video and reached out to him. I simply asked if he knew what happened to the project. He never responded. Well, that's not quite true. He did respond in a way. He took down the video. In fact, his whole channel's private now, besides a few unrelated recent uploads. And his bio has changed as well. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be hearing from him anytime soon. As for the other YouTubers, some have deleted their videos on Kardomance already, while others have kept it up. Now, I don't know how many people compared Kardomance to Gods Unchained, but I'll warn content creators to be very careful about making that comparison, especially when there's no game out. Also, I find it weird how some of these ambassadors know that something is bad enough that they have to take down one of their videos or make it private. But apparently it's not bad enough to the point where they should make a follow-up video or something that says, "Hey guys, this project isn't doing so hot. I'm getting worried." They could say something. Anything to give your community a heads up or a warning. But hey, that's just what I think. And this is why I find it hard to blame the victims in this situation, the players. Nothing in announcements ever indicated that this project was going down. Throughout the year of 2022, there were multiple mentions of new partnerships and new content being added. And every time they moved blockchains from mutable to wax to ultra, it was always framed in a way that doing such a change had more benefits. This, coupled with no warnings by any of the staff or team members, left many players wondering for months whether the team was still working on the game or not. This, paired with the encouragement of ambassadors, well, you can see why people would fall for it. Not to mention, many of the players who spent a lot of money get trapped in the sunk cost fallacy. People who have spent so much money and time in a failed project, they refuse to see any wrongdoing from the team or the founders. It's something I see quite often when I check out other failed projects. And while I understand that people want to support the projects they're participating in, I think people should be more critical before they choose to join. Here are some more concrete questions you should be asking. How long is your cash runway? That's basically how long you have until you run out of money. What is your current monthly burn rate? That's basically how much they spend on salaries, servers, giveaway, etc. Also, another good one, how many devs are working on the game? And with that, you can judge how realistic their timelines and roadmaps are. Keep in mind, a lot of projects like to talk about all the big plans they have in the future, and normally that's what they're really good at. But solid financial figures are always the first priority. Remember, as a player, you're an investor as well. If you're going to be investing your time and money into the project, you should at least know if they're going to be around in a few months or not. But if you forget everything about this video and just remember one thing, it's this. Don't trust a marketer to make a game. Well, that's pretty much the end of the story. Whether Cyprian Claudez actually gives refunds or not, I'll keep you updated. I know it's not the happiest ending, but that's just how most of these stories end. Well, until next time, I'm the Outlaw. Later.